Good evening, everybody. It's quite a cozy situation. A bit funny. I come over there. You can work without a microphone. Thank you very much that you are still here. It's close to 6 o'clock. The meeting started at close before 9, so it's a long day. And we've prepared a panel discussion for you, which is innovation in market access, how to embrace change and become more adaptable. So I'm not sure if I introduced myself in the morning. I'm Thomas. I'm Director Global Pricing and Market Access in medac, a mid-sized pharmaceutical company here in the northern part of Germany. And a few sentences about my panelists here. I will also give them the opportunity to introduce themselves later on, but so starting with Arup on the left-hand side. Arup is Corporate Vice President and Head of Global Market Access for Therapeutic Areas in Boehringer Ingelheim. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Then the next one is Bengt. Bengt Anell. Bengt has been working for 25 years in the pharmaceutical business in various roles, clinical trials, AOR, and consulting. And currently Bengt is leading Otsuka Pharmaceutical Market Access, the HTA team in Benelux and Norway, which is for me quite a diverse situation. We will hear a bit more on that. And last but not least, next to me here is Carl-Johan Muren, Senior Director heading HEOR team in Alexion. As he told me this morning, he is responsible for everything globally outside the US and outside Japan. And Alexion, you may know, is a rare disease company bringing rare and ultra-rare disease products or pharmaceuticals to the patients. So a few more words about medac. Medac is a mid-sized company, as I said, in the northern part of Germany, and I've been with medac for too long, probably now. And I used to be the head of global pricing and market access. Now I'm working in a pharma political role, health political role, almost only related to market access. So I'm working in Brussels in two different trade associations. One is the UCOP, which is a so-called mid-sized companies trade association, and I'm active there in working groups about cell and gene therapy, about orphan drugs and market access, of course. Also, I have the honor to represent them in the WHO Europe project. However, WHO is currently struggling a bit because Mr. Trump has cut them the funding, so this is currently a bit on hold. And I'm also active in another trade association in Brussels, which is called Medicines for Europe. They have a sector group on value-added medicines, so how to create from a generic drug an original, so to say. The generics was a marketing handle, I would say. There's the sector group. I'm one of the co-chairs of the sector group, and I'm representing Medicines for Europe in the HTA stakeholder network of the European Commission. So this was about myself, and now would you please introduce yourself with a few sentences? Or okay, Arup doesn't want to start, so
okay, should I start? So my name is Carl-Johan, as was mentioned by Thomas here. So I head up a small team in Alexion. We are one of three legs, you may say, within AstraZeneca. We are the rare disease leg in AstraZeneca. You have the biopharma and the oncology business unit also in AstraZeneca. So we are about 3,000 people in Alexion. My team, we are 9 people. We are supporting, as was mentioned, all of the markets outside of the US, a number of small markets. So we have We have a goal right now to be present in 100 markets by 2030. We are present in 70 markets right now. So that means that we are going to many small markets where we haven't had any presence before, which are new challenges. Many are not HTA markets, very non-traditional, so we're seeking new ways of gaining access also and understanding the evidence needs that the countries need. So working very closely with them also. So yeah, and I've been also 25 plus years in industry, so too long, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my name is Bengt Anell. I work at Otsuka, and in my role, I oversee our market access planning and HTA dossier development and pricing and reimbursement submissions in the 4 Nordic countries, and also the Netherlands and Belgium primarily. We do also submit in Luxembourg, but it's not as big of an investment or time-consuming as in the other markets. And I've been in this role 5 years now, and we're on the 4th product we're working with to have reimbursed in those markets. So I think the topic for the panel discussion today intrigued me a little bit because I keep getting more and more surprised about how different the HTA authorities and the countries are operating when it comes to assessing our products and making decisions about reimbursement. So I think it's, despite having been in the industry for a while, I still see that I'm learning a lot, and I keep getting surprised. So I'm happy to talk about that, and also fascinated with the advancements with AI and trying to grapple that a little bit more and see how I can use it in my work. So that's also something that I find very intriguing. I want to learn more about, so I'm happy to discuss the small efforts that I've done so far and share that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Very quickly, been in Boehringer Ingelheim now for 5 years. I started off leading what became the TA inflammation. We are a group of 4 different disease areas: gene therapy, rheumatology, pulmonology, which is big, gastro, and some of the more rarer disease within the organization. We are part of 4 different therapeutic areas. Around about April, I took on a role where I'm the senior advisor to the executive vice president who reports to the chairman. And my role is more like an integration between the medical team and the access team, because we seem to be 2 different silos. We need to break that because we work on the same instruments of data. Started off my career as a practicing physician and as a lecturer with the Royal College of Physicians, then moved to Pfizer, medical affairs, Novartis, and you have to do commercial, you got to do sales, I got kicked around. Then I moved on to global product strategy in different companies, Novartis, where most of my time, Bexalta, Shire, Takeda, and a neuroscience company before coming across from Boston, which is home for me, and here I am. Boehringer Ingelheim is an exciting company. I've never worked for a family-owned business, which is today the largest pharmaceutical in Germany. So it's been an exciting time. I'm learning a lot of new things, especially working in Germany, because I've become a little more German than American, but very excited.
Yeah, thank you very much, colleagues. And I don't want to scare you off, because when you look into the agenda, you saw 7 different agenda points and questions. So we boiled it down to, depending on 2 or 3, depending on the time. So let me start with the first one, which is starting with digital innovation, how to utilize modern digital tools to revolutionize market access. And my question to you, Bengt, will be, have you started with those tools already in your company, and what are your experiences?
Yeah, so I won't speak so much about how Otsuka has implemented or started to work with the AI tools, but we do have a team in-house and sort of a proprietary platform in-house. But one example that I would like to share where I found it very useful specifically in the market access and HTA part is when it comes to putting together the HTA dossier or pricing and reimbursement dossier, and especially when you're doing the competitive intelligence preparations, I know you will all recognize the activity of looking at how the different authorities across Europe, in my case, how they have assessed different products within the disease area. And one challenge which we have typically is keeping up with all the references and publications that are used in the dossiers. And as you know, if you take a dossier from NICE or some of the other authorities, you can face with 200-300 pages of documentation. And then if you do this for many countries in Europe, you basically very quickly build up a huge library of documentation. And each report has their own 200-300 references that have been used. And they come at various time points, if you go back a few years. And something that has helped me, and which I've started to do, is use like an online platform with these published reports, and basically just go through and extract all the references that are in the reports. And then do these with a number of different reports that are relevant, and then use the AI platform to compare the references that are being used across the different ones. And I found it very useful in the beginning with some quick wins that I could ask in the latest HTA assessment report, for instance, from one country. What are the sources that were used in that report that do not exist in these other reports that I've already uploaded into the system? And the AI could very quickly summarize that for me and come with good suggestions as well. For instance, to go online to PubMed or other places and fill in the data about those sources that I didn't have at my disposal. So get the author list, get the abstracts, key takeaways, or whatever is available online, and structure that for me. And something that I didn't expect that AI could do, but after working with it a little bit, I understand it's probably very easy for AI, is I could ask it for a specific reference if I knew that in one HTA submission it had been used in the unmet need section. I could ask, how was this reference used in the unmet need section? And it could come back and tell me the exact sentences where the reference was used, so I could see, oh, the other company that had submitted the report, they had written about it this way and then used this reference. And if it was an online reference that I had available, then I could also ask, okay, well, where from that reference did they find that information? And then it could quickly also point me into the right direction or the place in the full text reference where they had actually sourced that information and put into their statement to the HTA submission. And I found that extremely valuable. I did run into one problem, and that is, as I was building up a larger library of documentation, it started to take a really long time to get answers. So that's where I am now, and I'm hoping to work with some more experienced AI people to basically control the AI so it's working efficiently and not getting bogged down into redoing a lot of analysis every time I ask a question. Yeah, so that's one example.
Thank you very much, Bengt, for this Otsuka picture. Anything, Carl-Johan, you can add for Alexia?
Yeah, maybe not so much on the AI, but I think we have used more digital tools like in real-world evidence studies, observational studies, prospective studies. So like applying Fitbits we have one study that we performed a couple of years ago where we applied in a small sample of patients, I think with 30 patients, on our new therapy, and they used a Fitbit just to understand how much physical exercise they are using. So very simple. But we also measured like how their sleep was before they having the infusion every 8 weeks. So we wanted to see if they slept worse or how their sleep was compared to the other days when we measured that, and also some of the cardiovascular measures and so on. So that was, I think, was published last year. Also, it big investment, big high cost for 30 patients, but it was. I think that's one example. Another example is also where we have used NLP in our patient support programs to get information from patients directly and analyze that information. So when they are contacting our patient support program or are in contact with them, we are using what they are saying and analyzing that and structuring that information so we can see are there specific like areas that they are highlighting, how they are satisfied with the treatment or maybe not so satisfied, to identify that, how it's being used in clinical practice. It took some convincing of our global team and so on, because it's always like, well, you're going to find the adverse events, you're going to find the patients that are not doing so well, but yeah, but it's again, this is like, it's the bigger the company, the more difficult also to sometimes to get these new innovative ideas through. I think it's safety, adverse event concern, reporting, compliance is becoming a bigger deal that could hinder some of the innovation ideas that we have in the companies also.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. He was talking about bigger companies, so coming to you, Arup, from Boehringer Ingelheim, what's your picture on that?
Yeah, I sort of use that word, right? We are a large company, 50,000 people. We have a large IT team. The IT team is then divided by EDB teams and multiple other teams. Now, when we talk about access, we are still on a journey, I'll be very honest. And the reason is we are very territorial in data. And that's where we're trying to break that, right? The medical team has data. The epi team has data. We don't quite see data democratized. We are now obviously trying to make that happen, and then obviously, we're working with some consulting agencies. The question that we have, particularly trying to use AI, is how smart is a subsection of a subsection in a clinical trial? Because payers are going to say, does this drug work for everybody or for some people? We haven't got there yet. It pains me, but it's taking a lot of time for people to trust the access team, which actually have a lot of MDs and PhDs on the same team, right? Who are capable of looking at data. And I think where the organization is slowly changing is the appreciation of intellectually savvy people on an access team who can look at the data. But we are not intellectually savvy because we are so busy that we don't have time. And that's why AI is going to help us. Technology is going to help us. GVDs is one example. But we have to look beyond. We have to look at how does this data help a country that's going to come back and say, in this drug, why should it work? We cannot do that as a team. We are a small team. We cannot even do that with 50 million people because data is so dispersed that we need some help from data AI to help us. It's a journey that we are taking. Investments are being made, big investments, but we don't have answers just yet. And that's why we are trying to work with institutions to say, you're smart people, validate that for us. Then we will try and see, can we use those external control arms, ITCs, and have that engagement. So we are on a journey. It's a humbling journey, and I think Boehringer realizes that we have to do much more. But we also have to realize that it takes time for us to trust people with data. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much for this interesting insights. You said you started late only. I put it in my words. So you said, what triggers you starting? why have you started? Was there an initiation? Was there a failure, or?
No, so here's the thing, like we've invested a lot in the R part, research.
Yeah.
So research, we have heavily invested. We're looking at, biobanks around the world, particularly in Sweden and in the UK, right? So the biobanking is understanding the genotype and phenotypes.
Mm.
We're then trying to say, okay, how does it help us on the omics part, which is development? So that's strong. And as you heard many people saying, it's easy to do that using AI for that. The development part, which is where we all sit, is it's a journey of hypothesis. Does it work? And as it works, we lose data. So we didn't realize that, like I come back, the reality is there's so much data, we have so few teams. Yes, there are many consultants, and you will all agree that every consultant looks data differently. And if you're not democratizing the data with the medical team, the epi team, and the biostats, we'll never have the same answers. And I think what we need to be is prepared to go with confidence and say, we're going to do this. And I've always believed the AI is an enabler. It's not the solution, it's an enabler because you have to coach it to ask the right questions. Are we late? It's okay, and I think many companies are late. Mm. Can we do better? Yes, but it's not happening tomorrow. It may be the day after tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much for your insights, colleagues. Before we move to the next topic, which will be real-world data, real-world evidence, any questions to the colleagues sitting here on the stage?
Everyone is waiting to go to sleep, I think.
Could we have some coffee? Okay. All right.
Maybe a question to all of you is, do you think that this journey is going fast enough? And while you most probably answer no, it could go faster, what kind of challenges are the highest challenge in the way to implement these digital tools in the organization and use it broadly?
So let me, it's an easy question. I think it's broken down to three parts. The first part is people. When I talk to the IT people, they think they're as smart as people in DeepSeek or Microsoft, Amazon. I hope it's not recorded. So we have a lot of IT specialists who think they are the Microsoft of the world. They are not. Then we have people who are domain experts who think they understand the data, but it's not democratized. So until we let go and say we are willing to share and coach, we'll never get there. And that to me is a human factor. And that's why I put the sigmoidal thing, right? We have to be able to say the we rather than the I, and you'll see that in big organizations. We are big, and that's the biggest problem. Some teams are growing faster than the other, and it's always me and myself. If you break that, you can go very fast. So it's more a human thing.
I also think the answer is no. But I think after having worked in the industry for a while, you sort of get used to that it takes a lot longer to implement new technology in the pharmaceutical industry than in other businesses. Maybe rightly so, but it's certainly frustrating. And yeah, I think we're seeing now with AI what we saw maybe 10 years ago with real-world evidence. I remember when we started working with real-world evidence and colleagues thought it was completely useless, that it would never have an impact on decision-making, etc. But I think now the buzz of real-world evidence has almost died down. Everybody knows you have to have real-world evidence, and there isn't a question any longer whether you actually need to work with it. AI is becoming the next new thing, and it'll be interesting to see where we are in 10 years from now. I'm sure that we will look back and say that it was new now, but it will find its place and how to use it. So yeah, I think we should embrace it.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. Carl-Johan?
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to like manage the size of your bite, right? So you can't take everything at once. I think you have to take it in small bites before you go there and find. So I think that's the way we should do it with AI as well. Also take it in. Yeah, we have a word in Swedish, lagom. It's like just right. Yeah. So the size, how big you take. I think that's probably how we need to do it. So. Otherwise, it's a risk that we are asking too much from the expectations are too high, and we're moving too fast, and then it could fail and have a backlash.
Yeah, I have my own. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So for the interest of time, we already have half of our time consumed. So going to the next point, which is real-world evidence or real-world data. So how to effectively leverage real-world data for a better strategy. Arup, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah. So real-world evidence is, to me, the real mantra. What is real evidence? Where is it? Is it reproducible? What can we do? Have you set the right protocols? The only problem with real-world evidence is very difficult to find the real data in the right institution with the right quality. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. When you take the US, you look at Optum data. And Optum data is different from Optum Clarity data, which is a little bit more microscopic. But yet when you look at that data, you don't have what you're looking for enough. And when you look at many of this data to even try and find the patient in their journey, it is lost. So real-world evidence is you have to be able to find that gold in a population. I'm not talking about just public health questions. The questions that payers are going to ask, so what? And that so what is about where does the innovation have the biggest impact? And that's where we all need to sit down together. So what real evidence are we doing? Are we just doing to tick the box? Or are we ticking it for that? As I said, right, working in 3 large companies, we do lots of registry data, but when we go back and ask, did you look for the specifics? It's lost. It's gone, and it's under a ton of information. And then it's lost. So I think we can do a better job. So I've not answered your question, but there is an opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Bengt, anything to add from your side?
Yes, I would say that it's still developing very quickly, the area of real-world data or real-world evidence. Just a couple of examples which I think are interesting is in Denmark. It wasn't too long ago where they enabled linking pathology registry and lab data and prescription data and hospital data and public healthcare expenditure data, etc., to one national center. And I think that creates a very interesting playground for conducting these kinds of studies or following different patient populations over time. And I know that it's something that we in Sweden have dreamed about, but we're a long way from being able to do that in Sweden because we have different regions that are responsible for their own data management. So you can't get access to all the lab data for the entire 10 million or 11 million inhabitants in one place. Finland has come a long way. They have enabled a national process, and with these data lakes where you have lab data, etc., but it's still regionalized. So but you can go to one place and then access the data from different regions. But I think that this is something that has evolved over the last 10, 15 years maybe. And so I think it's still developing, but we're going to be able to do so much more with the data and with the digitalization of healthcare information that it's not yet bringing all the promises, but I'm still hopeful that maybe the next generation will be able to do the kind of things that we have been dreaming about, and it will be very fast and easy for companies in the future to do that kind of research, and perhaps all across Europe as one data center, basically. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Bengt. I'm still thinking about what do you mean for the next generation. So,
Yeah.
But coming back to the topic, my understanding is that real-world data usually play a role in orphan drug reimbursement, also registration stuff. You are from an orphan drug company. How is your picture on that?
Yeah, it's very useful for us because we may have like trials that have the size of 20 patients, single-arm studies. So we need to rely also on following the patients in clinical practice and see from the real world how they actually are being managed to get a bigger sample than what we have. I think also there are opportunities to utilize the unstructured data that is now being reported and recorded in registries and also by physicians together with structured data also. So utilizing that technology that exists with AI and so on. I also think that we need to be very humble when it comes to what is real-world data, because everyone has I worked in this area for a long time, so it depends on what you mean by real-world evidence, and there are always limitations with the data source that you have. You need to understand that you cannot answer every research question with one study or one database. You have to be humble for that and also understand and see what is your research question, what do you want to capture, and how can this study or this design help you with that? So I find that is not, maybe that basic question is not always asked in the company, but you go, oh, we found this data source and we need to go there and do this study, rather than taking one step back and seeing what do we really need to get out of this and how can we get this information. So I think it's a combination by utilizing the existing technology, but at the same time understanding the limitations and see what is possible to do and what is not possible to do, and to get out of the data. So everyone talks about real-world data or real-world evidence, but we have different internal definitions of what that is. So I think that's important as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much to the colleagues for your insights. Any questions? Yes?
Yeah, I don't know if you know, then that, because we are speaking about real-world data, and there is this European health data space which will be in place in a few years. It's still gonna be slow. Their vision is quite ambitious, and the idea is it will get quite a bit shrinked, but we will have lots of data sources available. And do we like any of the industry has like insight that what we want to do with that? Or because I know it's still an early phase and it will take some years before all the implementing acts are ready. But there are I have heard some discussion, but I'm not sure what's the stance there.
Thank you very much. Very interesting question.
I think you need to be careful with that also, so that you're not over-promising. It sounds like a fantastic idea to have all the data across EU or Europe, but there is looking into our own disease registries, which we have set up in Alexion 20 years back or 15 years back. There's a lot of missing data. The more you collect and ask to report, there is a risk also of missing data. So the more we can utilize what is already being recorded on a routine basis, the better that is, of course. But I think that's an issue. So I would rather decide on a minimum data set and variables that are really important to measure, rather than seek to include everything, because that will fail. So.
Any ideas from the colleagues?
Yeah, I think there are many different use opportunities of the data that is, being developed. One that comes to mind, which I think is very useful, is and some of you are most likely very familiar with it, but the initiative to make sure you have ID on drug packs in Europe, so that you are able to ensure that the drug that you pick up at the pharmacy is not counterfeit. And that basically requires that any package that is being produced and sold in Europe has its own unique two-dimensional code on it, right? And if you think about it, that's a huge possibility to then follow the consumption of drugs in Europe. So it's basically just a European data set for everything that's being dispensed. And that's great, I think. And the reason for developing it is, I think, sound. And then you have, on the other end, if you look at specific disease areas, I think it also makes a lot of sense to have common variables like survival or kidney failure or more hard outcomes, and ensure that if it's being reported electronically in a system, it doesn't matter where in Europe that is being recorded, if it means the same thing. That allows us to track and follow up patient outcomes in a much broader way than we've been able to in the past. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think,
so you see the hope also with that, like there is one risk, but there's also some opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there are so many different initiatives going on about creating this European health data space. We're probably just in the early stages, but I think it's worthwhile to do it. And as I said, probably the next generation is going to reap the rewards of it.
There's a lot for the next generation.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, but it's going to be a very different world in the 20 years from now.
So this is a great wish list, right? That wish that everywhere in Europe you'll have one single source of truth. Mm-hmm. We've been in conversations with a few others. I'm going to drop some names now. Microsoft is trying to use the Azure platform. Mm-hmm. They're trying to work with Charité, which is probably the strongest there is. So there are a lot of players who want to play. If you're really looking for data, just try the OMAP data, which is now what is going to be used, but not everybody is using it. So I think you'll have to give yourself 5 to 10 years. Mm. Perhaps, my son's son could use it, but not him.
So we're not talking about the next generation, but the next next generation. Other questions? Don't see any hands, so I thank you very much. So we still would have time for another question or two, but as it's a long day already, so thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much to you guys here on the panel. And I'm looking forward for a nice evening together with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.